and delighted to be joined by former MEP and Brexiteer, but now the leader of Advance UK, his new political party, Ben Habib. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. Good to see you again.
I'm really confused, so please don't have a go at me on air. I got an invite to a thing launching a new party that I thought was you, and it isn't. Not that I can go. This is a different one. Tell me about Advance quickly. Talk to me.
Well, Advance UK is a party that stands for nation state, freedom of speech, democracy, and equality under the law. Four things you might think are self-evidently the guiding principles of any British political party or government. But actually, when you look at the parties on the political landscape, none of them actually stand collectively for those four crucial things which create the ability for a settled constitution, culture, people, and prosperous economy for the United Kingdom. And so we are bringing forward a reacquaintance with the principal guidelines required actually to deliver not just our country from the peril in which it now finds itself, but into a settled constitutional, cultural, and economically favourable position. That's what Advance UK will do. It will advance the United Kingdom in all its parts and for all its people, and it will do it democratically with the people, for the people.
And is the plan to run locally or nationally and together? How do you go about setting up something like this?
So we have a constitution. It's quite different to any other political party. It includes something called the college, which will comprise between 50 and 100 people who are not paid a shilling by the party and cannot hold public office if they wish to be in the college. They do it because they care about the country and they sign up to the political philosophy that I just outlined. And they then advocate for our principles. They help us find the candidates we need to fight elections. And they also help us draft the policies which will then give effect to our political philosophy. No political party has that kind of intellectual ballast, that approach to candidate identification and policy making. And our focus really is on 2029, because there isn't time to, fight local elections, get a new party on the map and fight local elections between now and then. But the crucial thing we want to do, Jeremy, the really crucial thing is to establish the political philosophy, which, as you probably think, is so self-evidently obvious that every party, every government, every politician in this country should stand for nation state, freedom of speech, democracy, and equality under the law, but they don't. And so we have to drive these fundamental truths back home.
Interesting. Right, me old son. Great to have you on. This is really interesting. Oh, hold on. Jezza, please leave the Afghans alone. They helped keep our troops safe and alive. They are welcome here. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, you're entitled to your opinion, but it is a story that has absolutely taken us all by storm today, Ben Habib. A huge data blunder has led to 18,714 Afghans being secretly brought into the country via unmarked planes into Stansted. We add the caveat that they can also bring their family and their children. It could be upwards of 100,000. A Royal Marine, a civil servant, patently sent an email to the wrong people, and it resulted in the then Tory government thinking, Christ, these people's lives are in danger. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that resulted in all of these people being brought to this country. But the government today, the Tory government, and tonight Reform are blaming Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman, who were in charge of immigration at that time. The government took out a super injunction, which meant that the British public via the British press couldn't find out. We find out today, and naturally there are people like Jennifer, I take her point, many more are saying, hold on a minute, the first duty of a government is to protect its people. That's another 20,000 people. Farage has been up and has said these people could be sexual offenders, they could be criminals. We are bringing people into our country, not only who could be dangerous, but who are swelling numbers, stretching still further our public services to the detriment of people from this country who have paid into them forever. Thoughts, please, Ben?
I absolutely, completely agree with your analysis of the damage that bringing 23,900 people plus their families into the United Kingdom would do. And I think many of the people on the list were down as potentially criminal and sexual offenders, I think some of them as well. These are not people who helped British troops or helped our campaign in Afghanistan. These are people who simply ended up on a list that was made public. And in the pursuit of their protection, they'd applied for asylum, and that list was made public. And it was then concluded that their lives would be in danger by the Taliban, and a decision was made under cloak and dagger, because the government obviously understood that it would be highly contentious, that they would be brought back to the United Kingdom wholesale. And one thing you didn't mention, of course, was the cost of £7 billion that is estimated to be the cost of bringing these people here and then looking after them once they're here.
Well, it gets worse. It gets worse because I found out 20 minutes ago that these Afghans secretly relocated to the UK after that data breach, have got together with left-wing lawyers, and they're suing the government in a compensation case that could reach a further £1 billion. And all of this, whilst and I'm sorry to get on my high horse, while we're taking away winter fuel from pensioners, where there are men and women who have fought for this country being prosecuted, ex-service men and women, for what happened in Northern Ireland and being made homeless, whilst waspy women were lied to their faces, whilst farmers who provide the food chain in this country are being financially ruined by this government, whilst energy's going millipede today is walking around going, anybody that doesn't agree with net zero should be imprisoned. I just don't know where politicians' priorities are anymore, mate.
Absolutely. And that's why, as I mentioned, we have 4 priorities in Advance UK. The third priority is democracy. And our democracy has been hijacked by the supranational order. Things like the European Union, the European Convention of Human Rights. And at the heart of this problem, Jeremy, is a failure to connect with our democratic imperatives. What our political classes come to conclude, fundamentally mistakenly conclude, is that it has a greater duty of care to people in Afghanistan than it has to people in this country. And that comes out of the ridiculous notion that are embedded in the European Convention of Human Rights, the UNHCR and all sorts of other things that has infected the body politic in the United Kingdom. And we've got to start putting our own people first. Civil society in this country must be protected, and our economy must be protected for the benefit of the British people, not for people who are coming from Afghanistan because there was a data breach. And if their lives are in danger, that's because the Taliban are a bunch of savages. And that is not the British government's fault, and it shouldn't be the British people who have to pick up the burden for that. I think
the thing is, why there's real anger, this is me in basic layman's terms, is there will be arguments over whether we should or whether we shouldn't. But the real hassle, I think, the real injustice for British people is that they feel that they're not even on a level playing field now. They feel that criminals get preferential treatment over victims. They feel like
100%.
Migrants get preferential economic and social benefits over them. They feel that
absolutely
the left, I don't know, I feel like the imbalance is resulting in the British public, I said it earlier, saying, hold on a second, why would I live my life correctly, pay my taxes, not break the law, not ask for a handout, teach my kids the difference between right and wrong, open, all that stuff, right? Why would I do that when actually I'm 28th in the queue behind a bunch of migrants and a bunch of criminals and a bunch of whatevers? Yeah. And I think that's a real issue, and it is for politicians
100%.
Of whatever party, and I mean this, your party, Reform, Labour, whatever. I'm not including the Greens; they're nightmares. But I'm being completely honest when I say this. I think the politicians need to understand that the British people have woken up to the fact that their voice and their vote is really important, because I think they feel like they're being pushed around. Let me ask you, in Advance UK, your new party, something else, the BBC. How the bloody hell has Tim Davies still got a job? How is it that this man has overseen a paedophile who's still walking the streets and getting a pension? That he allows the on demand of a bloke saying, let's kill the IDF, which is essentially Jews.
Extraordinary.
Today they've sacked John Terode. I'm not going to get embroiled in what might or might not have been said, and Greg Wallace. They've cleansed that programme. Presumably they've lined up some diverse people to take over. I'm not getting into the rights or wrongs of it, but how on earth, Adrian Mills, who was very famous on That's Life, good friend of mine, he said earlier, how is this man still alive? You only get 9 lives. It's a disgrace, isn't he?
Completely. And every single issue you've mentioned there has its roots in the Human Rights Act, where we set aside what it means to be British, and then the subsequent act, the Equalities Act, which requires positive discrimination in order to ostensibly level the playing field. But what you've identified and given so many good examples of, Jeremy, is that progressive discrimination actually just breeds discrimination against British citizens and breeds a favourable treatment of foreigners. Instead of getting rid of discrimination, we've actually embedded discrimination into our system against the very people that discrimination should be avoided. You know, so for example, as you said, victims are no longer given priority in the criminal justice system. The criminals are being protected.
Yep.
We see that with deportations. They don't get deported because their lives are threatened. These Afghanis are coming here because their lives are threatened. We've got to progressively discriminate in their favor. And the BBC is absolutely captured by that thinking, by that ideology. So they will throw someone under a bus because of some inadvertent, stupid comment they made 4 or 5 years ago. But they will go on protecting the identity of, as they did with Hugh Edwards, of someone who's holding absolutely horrific child pornography photographs, and then allow him to keep all the salary he was paid while he was suspended, send him off with a nice pension. The whole country is turned on its head. And as you rightly also say, Jeremy, the British people have had enough. They're looking at this and going, saying, this is all topsy-turvy.
Listen to Alison in Billericay. Compensation for what? Rescuing them, housing them and giving them benefits. Oh, and a better life to the detriment of me. Beam me up, Scotty. I've had enough. I've got to let you go, Ben Habib. But Anna in Surrey says, I've just fallen in love with Ben Habib. It's all going on this show.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, he sounds very... Bless him, bless him. Ben with his new party, Advanced UK. More about that on Talk coming up at 0344 499 1000.